Bienvenidos, Ushamdi, and welcome Amarillo Community College learners from the Spring 2023 semester taking the CTS-233 Section 400 Network Programmability course. This is the Cisco Networking Academy's DEVASC 200-901 Certification Exam Preparation course, and in this, Part 4 of Lab 4.5.5, we are going to wrap up this lab by diving in and taking a look at a really cool Python library called Faker, and we're actually going to be working with a pre-configured script, Python script, that's going to allow us to add. We're going to do 100 books, but we could add as many books as we want, and I'm going to show you how you would do that. So let's dive in and take a look, and we're going to go line by line through this code so everyone understands exactly what we're doing here. Now, this very first line up here is an interesting one, and it does cause a little bit of confusion. So this is sort of, I won't call it an old school thing, but that is the magic number. That's referred to as the magic number. And what follows the magic number is typically the absolute path name to where your Python 3 executable binary is installed. This is a more portable approach to doing that. And here's what I mean. If I'm on the CLI and I said which Python, because I want to see, which Python 3, because I want to see where my Python 3 binary is installed, I can see, oh, okay, it's in user bin Python 3. Now, you might be wondering, well, why does this say user bin env and then Python 3? And this makes this script mega portable. And by portable, what I mean is I can run this on my system and it's going to find the Python 3 binary for me because it's going to look at my environment variables to see where Python 3 is installed. So what we could do here is what we could do here from the CLI is say user bin env. Well, what does that produce? Well, that's going to produce all of this very cool stuff, but it's also, most importantly, going to have the environment variable for the path. In other words, the path that I search when I run commands from the CLI here. And so the environment variable, the user bin env, this is what it would produce, but here's the path, and lo and behold, user bin. And that's where the Python 3 binary is located. So by putting this line up here, the magic number followed by user bin env, this guarantees, well, I don't want to say guarantees, but it's going to virtually guarantee that anybody that takes this script and runs it on their Ubuntu install or on their Mac or wherever they're doing it, that the Python 3 binary is going to be found based on their settings. Because if I hard-coded user bin Python 3 in here, and I give it to somebody and say, oh, here, go ahead and run this, and they run it, and their Python 3 binary is not installed in user bin, then we're going to have issues, right? So by doing this almost guarantees, virtually guarantees, that anybody that grabs this is going to be able to run it, and it's going to work. Now, or I should say, they're going to be able to run this, and it's going to find Python 3. Whether it works or not, that brings us, that's a good segue into the next line here, right? Do we have the request library installed? And you can see, you can always page down and they give you some information here on what the requests HTT library is all about. But I want to give you some additional information, right? So take a look here. This is, if you just go to requests.readthedocs.io, or if you Google requests HTTP for humans, it's going to bring you to this page. This is sort of the main homepage for requests HTTP for humans that has a quick start guide, advanced usage, an API reference, right? We're talking about APIs. So again, I would highly recommend taking a look at this page and looking at some of the quick start things that you can do and the values that you can get when you're using the requests library. The same is true for Faker, right? So it's faker.readthedocs.io. So here are the documents for Faker with the compatibility. Here's how you would use it in a Python script possibly, right? And you're going to see something very similar to that right there. Okay. So let's dive back into the script. So we're going to import requests. We're going to import JSON, right? Because we love working with the JSON data. And from the Faker library, we're going to import the faker class. Now, you can see it's a proxy class capable of supporting multiple locales. So we could have just said import faker, right? But then we'd have to say faker dot with a capital F faker. Okay, so when we say from faker import this, then we can just refer to that faker dot whatever we're going to do, or when we create a faker object from the faker class. So that's one way to do the import. So then what do we have here, right? And again, this is nothing we haven't already seen. We've got 3 variables that we've created: API host, login, and password. And this should look very familiar to you, because this is the information using this library.demo.local, right? That local school library API server that we have installed here on our DEVASC virtual machine. And the request library, take a step back, the request library, we need it to do the get, the post, the delete, the put, all of those HTTP methods, or those HTTP verbs, right? So now what we're going to do is, real quickly, we're going to take a look at, before we get into the functions that we've created here, right? You can see we've created just a bunch of functions that are going to get called. So let's go to the CLI real quick, because we want to demo this faker library, right? So how would I do that? Well, let's say Python 3. And again, it searches my path. And yes, it's in user bin. User bin is in my path. And so it knows where Python 3 is at. So how do we do this here? Well, we're going to say from faker, import faker. Then all I need to do to create a faker object is instantiate. And this should look very familiar too. So if I had a class called cars, how did we create an object from that class? Just like this. Variable name, like car1, gets the value of the cars class. Now, obviously, you're probably going to maybe type a model in, or horsepower, or whatever the case may be. But again, all we're doing is creating an object. If I did print fake, we're creating an object from that class, right? And you can see, remember it mentioned that word proxy. And so here's the location, the hexadecimal representation of the location in memory where our fake object resides. So now that I have an object, right? Remember from our classes conversation, creating the classes, we create the methods in the class, or attributes in the class. We can access those things by simply saying the name of the object dot, and then if I hit tab twice, and you can see there's a ton of stuff going on here. Now, you could see attributes in here. But right now, when you see the open parents, typically what you're only seeing the methods here. I don't see many attributes. So again, just a ton of methods. And well, that was kind of cool. It looks like you can create a fake SHA-1 key, a fake SHA-256, I should say hash, a fake social security number, a fake state abbreviation, street address, all, so this is all the stuff you're going to see here in a second. And we'll check out a couple of those in addition to what the lab was showing. So, okay, what if I was to say, all right, fake name? What does that return? Okay, so Melissa Rowe. If I run it again, it's just going to give me a fake name every single time I run it. So what about fake.ssn? And the open parent, close parents at the end is key, right? If you don't do that, you're going to get this. It's just a method, right? And I mean, take a look at that, right? It tells you, Python is telling you, hey, that's a method. What about name? What if I did that with name? Yeah, no, it's a method, right? That's just a method. But we want to run that method, right? So we're calling that method. Let's go back to social security number. Let's go back to social security number here and run that and take a look at this. It can generate fake social security numbers. Well, back to our library, can it do a fake ISBN 13 number? It absolutely can. What about, and these are the examples that they're showing you here in the lab, what about a fake catchphrase? So how could you use this in a program maybe, right? Implemented regional matrices. Okay, this is interesting. Reduce zero administration ability. So you can generate all of these fake things. And pretty cool, right? So even fake time. And there we go. That's a fake time. So very, very cool what we can do with the faker library here, right? All right, so now it's going to say practice generating some random data using the faker library. And they give us a print statement here, right? So we'll follow along with a print statement. It says my name is, and we're going to be using the format method of the string class to print this out. So there's the string I want to print. And again, remember the period here at the end, that's just grammatical, right? So I'm just saying, hi, my name is whatever, period, for the sentence that I'm printing out here. Remember the curly braces, that's my placeholder. And what is it my placeholder for? That period there starts my reference to the string format method, where I'm going to type in fake.name, open paren, close parens, and then 2 parentheses at the end, right? So one for that parenthesis and the other for that parenthesis. That's what these last 2 are doing here. They're closing it up. So my name is Erica Foley, Rachel Moore. And you can see every time we run it, now John Jones, that's a little bit scary there. So, but you can see it's just giving you random names, right? Pretty cool. Now, question B, using the 3 highlighted messages from step 2D above. And what was step 2D? The catchphrase, the ISBN 13, and the fake name. How would we print that sentence out that they want you to print out? Well, let's back up here, right? So my name is, now remember I told you that you could use the curly braces more than once in the string that you're constructing. And it's just a placeholder. And since the order of things matters, but we're not going to be mixing the order up, you could reference things in here like this, like 0, 1, 2, 3. But we're putting things in the order that they would naturally appear here anyway. So we can just do, think of it as that's my first placeholder, right? For some value. And we're going to give the values to the CLI here. So my name is, and that's my first placeholder where we're going to generate a fake name. And I wrote, and we're going to put the double quotes around it because we've got single quotes on the outside around the entire string. So whatever the value is that goes in there is going to be enclosed in double quotes. And that's going to be our fake catchphrase. And then it wants us to print out the ISBN number inside of parentheses followed by a period, and that should do it, right? So remember, all these curly braces are doing here is they're just placeholders that are going to represent values. Well, what are those values? Well, remember, we kind of saw an example earlier. So we use the dot format method from the string class, and here's where I'm going to put in fake.name. That's my first one, and then just a comma that separates these different values that are going to be dumped in between those curly braces in the order they appear here in the format method. So it would be fake.name, open, with the parentheses open and closed, and then it's going to be fake.catch_phrase. Did I spell that right? P-H-R, yeah, phrase, comma, fake.isbn 13. And remember, we need the 2 parentheses at the end there to close out not only the beginning of the print statement, but the beginning of our format method. So this should print out exactly what we're looking for. My name is Tina Wright, and I wrote distributed 3rd generation productivity, and there's your ISBN number. Let's run it again. We get a different name. Again, it's just generating a fake name, a fake title, and a fake ISBN number. So pretty cool. So how can we leverage this in our program? Well, again, here we're at the interactive interpreter. Let's run a for loop. So for, and I'm going to say book. It shows I, and I is a convention that you typically use, but to give it some meaning here, so for book in range. Now, range is a built-in Python function that is going to just count, right? And let's see what it is going to count for us here. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we're going to say, we're just going to print up 10 fake names. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So we're going to say fake.name, and let's make sure we get it right here for the example. And then remember, I spaced in 4, hit enter, just hit enter again, and there it goes. So if I ran that again, it's going to give me 10 different names. So now that you see how we could loop through with a for loop here, right? Or, iterate over a range, and I can generate all of these random names, I should be able to say print, and then could I put like fake name and then add some stuff in here? Like, what if I was to put, sorry, I don't want to do that. What if I was to do, okay, I want fake name. I don't want the A in there either. I want fake name. I want fake.isbn 13, and I want fake.ssn. We'll do fake social security number in here, right? And then we've got the open and close parentheses around the print statement. So what do we get? We'll take a look at that. So we get a fake ISBN, we get a fake social security number, and we get a fake name. So this should kind of have you thinking right now, oh, so what I could do is I could possibly create a put request that just, it loops. And based on the range, right, it could create a certain number of books for me that I could then dump into our library. And that's exactly what we're going to do here. So the final look is going to be at the variable names here. We know why we need these, right? To generate that token. So get auth token is using login and password. Well, there's login, there's password. So we've got our values out there, and that's where we do our post request using the API host. And these are F strings is what these are referred to here. There's, you can think of it similar to the format method in that you've got the curly braces, and in between the curly braces, we're actually adding in the actual variable name here, right? So this is referred to as an F string. And again, it's all about use case, right? So here, this makes the most sense. This is going to be the easiest thing to do here, is the F string. For the printing that we were doing, the format method from the string class, that's the best way to do that, or one of the best ways to do that. So here we have it, and auth is going to get the auth creds. So if the status is 200, I'm going to return the token in JSON format. Otherwise, I'm going to raise this exception error, right? And remember, 200 means what? Success. So if it generates the code, then we are golden. The token. If it doesn't, we're going to get an error. And then here's a function called add book. And what do you think this is going to do? Yeah, so this is going to add a book. We've got the API key here. We've got inside the function, we're going to create a variable called R, and it's going to get the value from request.post. And what are we doing? Trying to get off of the pop-up there. It's going to post that book for us. It's going to dump the JSON. It's going to dump the data to let me take a step back. So the book information is going to be dumped to a JSON string. It's going to be captured in the variable name data. And then we're going to check to see, did we get a 200 status code, right? Was I able to add the book? If I can't add the book, then we get an error. We raise an exception. Hey, there's a problem here. Here's your status code. So this is great code to take a look at. Maybe this code here is going to work fantastic in your extended functionality that you might add to your MapQuest team project. Think about these things, right? This is a great way to look at some code and say, hey, how could I take this code and leverage it in my project? All right, so now we're going to get down to the end here. So here is a call, right? The API key is going to be captured in getAuth token, or is going to be captured from what the getAuth token function returns. And we saw that function above. It should return the API key, right? That Cisco, and then the bar, and then the rest of the token. So once I've got that token, I create a faker object from the faker class here called fake, and then I'm simply going to loop. Now, we're starting at 4, and quick note here, if you are adding the books in the library already, I'm going to do this. We're going to start with, these are the ID numbers for those books. So I'm going to go from 10, and we'll go to 111. Because here's the thing with the range command. This is where it starts, and it includes that. So it starts at 10. So we're going to see an ID of 10, but it ends one before that. So it's inclusive here, but it's exclusive here. And what I mean is when we run it, the range includes ID 10, but it doesn't include 111. It stops at 110. So keep that in mind, right? Keep that in mind. So fake title, take a look at what it's doing. We're going to use so for I in range, and you could say book, but then again, you'd have to change it down here and refer to it as a book. It's simply going to call the add book function for these 100 books, passing in the book argument along with the API key as an argument. And so if we go back up here to our functions, right, this is really where all the work is getting done. This is where all the heavy lifting is happening. GetAuth token is going to give me back and return that token in JSON format. And then when I call the add book, I've got the API key because that's what was returned up here. And then I just pass in the information for the book and we post that information up. Oops, sorry, I didn't mean to roll past that. All right, so let's go ahead and let's run this. Off we go. Whoops, sorry. So we're going to say run without debugging. And here we go. We just added in, and take a look at how quickly we added in 100 books, right? Pretty cool. But how do we test that? Well, you know what? Remember, we were just using Postman. So I could do it here, right? I could come back to the school library API website and I could say, okay, wait, let's execute this and let's get the books and let's see what we got. And, oh, you know what? It may have had an issue because I forgot I put 55 in here. So yeah, it actually looks like it had an issue and that's not pulling. Now, let's take a look. Time to do a little troubleshooting here. Let's run the GET request over here. And let's send that request and see what we get. 13.0.11. So yeah, it clearly had issues. So here's what I'll do. Oops, sorry. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to change the range. Oh, you know what? I didn't save. So, you know, fortuitous failure, right? Trying to figure out here, okay, well, what happened with all of this stuff that I thought we had added? And it looks like it probably ran into an issue because, one, I didn't save things, so that the range didn't change. And so here's what I'm going to do. So I'm just going to go, we're going to go from the different ID values. We'll do 200 and we're going to add in 301. There we go. So these will be the new IDs. Let me save this. I thought I had clicked over here and caught save. I clearly did not. And I think that's why we were having issues there. So let's go ahead and do run without debugging. And there we go. Now that should have added in all of those books we think it's going to add in. Again, I've got my GET request here, so we could run that, but let's do it in Postman so we can get a little GUI graphical representation here. And again, we've got include ISBN true, sort by author, and let's click the request here. And so we got 10, 2, 3, 13, and it doesn't look like those got added in. Let me change this real quickly here and check and see to make sure that I'm actually following along and doing the right. Oh, you know what? It might be, it's asking us, let me see if this is it. If it didn't like it because it wants us to run it from the command line. So it actually wanted us to run it from the command line here. Let me do something real quick here. So I'm going to VI the file. I'm going to change the range again because, again, my fear is that I'm going to break it here if we do the same range, and we'll do 501. So we'll do another 100 books here. And they want us to run it from the command. It should not have made a difference running it from the command line as opposed to, other than, you know, we're going to see all this output here of the 100 books. But we should be able now. And let's check and see if it had an issue. And maybe it was because, like I said, I'd left that one book in there that was in the range. And so let's run this again and see. And it definitely does not show 500 books in here. So this is interesting. Let me do this here. Let me see if it's because we're doing that. So let me save this. Let me rerun this. So I want to see if it was the query. No, it's not the query. So it seems as if those are, oh, you know what it is? Okay, hold on. We're only getting the first 10 books. I apologize. The very last line in the lab, or not the very last line, but there's a note in the lab. It says, try it out. You will only get a list of the first 10 books. You can enter a value from 2 to 10, the page parameter, to see the other books. So if we go back to the school library API, and I apologize, I totally whiffed on that. Let's look, okay. You're only going to see 10 records per page. So we could add in a larger integer here. So let's say 100. And let's execute that. And let's see, do we get, whoops. Do we get 100 books? And it didn't show. And actually, let me turn these other ones off here. So let's say off and off. So we'll turn off the sort by, the include ISBN. And let's say execute. And my response body is empty. Or I'm wondering if it's because, and let me do the page. Let's go to the Postman here. Again, I apologize, completely whiffed on this. So if I put in here page, and the value is 100, if I save this and let's run this query, all right, we get back, or is, maybe I should read the documentation. Is it looking for an integer, or did it just want me to say page? Okay, so yeah, I completely missed this here. The page parameter is then used to specify the page number. Oh, so it's 10 records per, okay. So I completely blew this, and I apologize. It's 10 records per page. We've added how many records? 200, right? Around 200. So it would be 20 pages. So that's, and I'm thinking it's records, right? I wanted it to show me books. I put in 100. Let's fix this. Let's put in 20. Because if it's showing 10 per page and we know that we've added at least 200 and there were already like 5 in there, now let's send the request. And here is the out, although this is showing page 20. So I guess the question is, would there be a way, and probably it's saving memory. So that's going to show me page 20, right? The page 20. What about page 21? Do we have anything on page 21? And we do. You can see that they go up to 400, right? So here's all these other entries that I was making. What about page 25, right? So this is going to have us work through page by page in order to save memory. So now it's clear to me what that page key and value are for. So without a doubt, it was absolutely adding in all of the information here. So it worked exactly as it was supposed to work. So now some of the things to think about here maybe is, well, is there a way to get it to print out everything, all the books at one time? And what about include ISBN? Oops, ISBN. And that is going to be true. So now let's send our request. So there we go with all of our fake names, our fake titles. We'll go ahead and save that. And then that would be the request going forward. Again, I apologize about the page parameter completely whiffing on that and not catching it, but that is going to do it for lab 4.5.5. This was the last portion of that. Now, the next lab we're diving into is definitely going to take us into the deeper end of the REST API and Python programming pool, because now we're going to start to incorporate MapQuest. And so we're going to be dealing with a lot of data coming from MapQuest. And so let's go ahead and start taking a look at that. I hope you guys are enjoying the course. Thank you so much for watching. And as always, I hope to see you in the next video.